we're so glad you're here. I'm Audrey.
I'm Margie.
And welcome to the Harmony Group podcast. Today, this is the second in a series that we are going through the 10 commandments of becoming emotionally intelligent creatures. And it comes from the book EQ Applied. Ta-da! If you did not get to watch the first episode in this series, it's actually episode 3, where we cover two really important commandments. The first is to ponder thy feelings. The second of which is
thou shalt learn from other people's perspectives.
Yes. And that's the one where we talked about grits. So if you haven't seen the clip of me trying to eat some sugary sweet grits, you are missing out. So hop over to our Facebook or Instagram and watch that, because it's a trip.
Yep.
But today we're going to cover the next two, and they are
right. So commandment number 3, thou shalt learn to pause. And we'll stop there for now. That's the first one we're going to do. Thou shalt learn to pause. And the book talks about it in terms of taking a break, stopping for a minute to make our next action or word choice align with what we know is true or what our values are. And that it is, the book says multiple times, this is difficult. This is not an easy thing, but it is so helpful. And even as parents, we know that. As bosses, we know that. As wives, we know that. You know, the minute we assume, or the minute we just barrel through without giving ourselves a minute to consider what we'll do next or how we'll respond next, oftentimes we find ourselves in a little bit of a pickle.
A little bit of a pickle. Sometimes in a lot of a pickle.
True.
Yes. Okay. So the first time I'd ever heard about emotional intelligence, gosh, I don't know how many years ago this was, maybe 10. And I was in the middle of, let's just say, a discussion with my husband, Charles, and I was yammering at the mouth, saying all kinds of things I probably shouldn't have said, getting all caught up in myself and in my own feelings. And I remember that all of a sudden I said, hang on. And then it was something like, I feel like I'm not as mad as I'm acting right now, but I don't really know how I feel. But I want to talk about this later. And I had to turn around, and I wasn't sure exactly what was happening, but I knew that whatever was happening inside my head and that I was saying was really more than maybe how exactly I was feeling, but I got caught up in the, I hate to say the drama of the bicker, or the adrenaline of the fight. I mean, it's that fight or flight sense when we switch parts of our brains that we're using, and we're not thinking through anymore. Now we're just being emotional. We're using that limbic part of our brain. And I didn't yet know that it was pausing to ponder my feelings, but instead I was caught up.
Yes. And so the book, and if you're new here, one of the things we're really trying to do is tackle kind of a conglomeration of all of our passions and loves and values in terms of relationship management. And some of that is conflict management. Some of that is how we manage our own selves and emotional intelligence, and just how to be our best selves. And that's really the goal of this book, is how to apply that intelligence, emotional intelligence, to our lives, to our systems in our lives. And the book talks about how we have an ability to be aware of our own emotions, but then we have to manage them. It's sort of the second piece of emotional intelligence. And so the book talks about it in terms of like a controller with a play button and a pause button and a fast forward button and a rewind button. And so this pause button really is designed for us to hold on a second and evaluate what's coming up next. And I think that helps us. I appreciate that with somebody that I'm with, when they take a breath and they say, can I just clarify? Or they might say, I don't know the answer to that. Could I get back with you tomorrow? Or that's interesting. I'd like to think about that a little bit more. Those are all responses that are totally fair.
Totally fair.
They're others oriented. You
Yep.
know, it gives me confidence that they're still for my relationship with them and for the project we're working on, but it's just too much right in the moment, which is again, fair.
Well, you know where I tend to get too much in the moment, and that is in one of my favorite stores, HomeGoods.
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 I love HomeGoods. It
Right.
makes I walk in and I feel like my home is prettier because I'm in the store.
Mhm.
And
just from being there.
Just from being there, it's just so pretty. And no matter what I'm there for, if I really just came in to one time I went in to just get a set of sheets. I got a couple other things. I always get a cart because what if I see something amazing? So I have developed this method, and I'm sure I'm not alone in it, but I will walk through the store and there will be impulse buys. I might see this amazing olive oil on the shelf, and it's only $7.99 for the bottle. And it's such a pretty bottle. It'll look beautiful on my counter. And then I walk by the chips, and listen, they're avocado chips. They're healthy. I could eat the whole bag and be like eating vegetables. And then there's the
quinoa chips.
I bought them.
Some of the greatest, yes.
And so I make my way through the store, and I keep putting impulse buys in my cart. And then I get to the rug section right before I check out. And for some reason, the rug section gives me pause. Literally, I pause and I start thinking about all of the things that I now have in my cart. And then I put them back. I walk back through the store backwards.
Now, I'm glad to hear you say that, because if you said you just abandoned your cart, we'd have all kinds of down.
Right? No. Listen, I've worked retail. We have worked retail. We know how this goes.
Yeah.
No, I walk my butt back through the store, the opposite direction, start putting everything back, usually end up at the checkout with one measly little $5.99 item. Sometimes it's those chips.
So is Charles glad then that you practiced the pause?
He's very glad. He really does not like it if I go to the store mad.
Right.
But when I take the time to pause, sometimes I also can figure out what's going on inside me. Do I really just need that hit of serotonin that I get when I buy something that makes me feel good? Sometimes that's what I need. I've had, that retail therapy. It's all fun and games, but sometimes it's because we need a hit. We need some high that we get, a serotonin hit.
Yeah.
So I do understand that pausing for lots of different reasons can be super, super helpful, but sometimes it's not fun. And sometimes it really is hard, Margie.
Yeah. I don't know too, when we pause, sometimes we forget a little bit of it, the next day when we get back, it might not be as big of a deal. And I always say things look different in the morning. And it's so true.
So true.
And if we're upset today and we say, you know what, I'm going to think about this tonight and let's get back together on it tomorrow. By tomorrow, the perspective changes, you kind of let stuff go. And so I think it's worthy of our practice, but certainly not easy, but it does lend us to the second commandment, not the second, it's the fourth. You get the
second for today.
Okay. So the second one for today says, thou shalt practice empathy. All right. So this is good, but also hard, because I think it's tricky in that we sometimes think we are being empathetic, but there's more we could do. There are questions we can ask ourselves to move us to a place of being even more effective in our empathy, if that makes sense. So let me break this down. This book talks about it in terms of 3 different kinds of empathy.
Okay.
First, cognitive empathy, which means I can understand what you're going through. I understand the facts. I may not have necessarily been able to feel that, but I understand the process by which you feel the way that you do. And man, that's a bummer for you.
Okay.
And then it moves into emotional empathy. And that emotional empathy is where I might find myself thinking, okay, so and so is experiencing the loss of a pet or loss of a job or something like that. Even tension in their marriage or whatever the thing is that's going on, that's the thing behind the thing for the
Yes.
person. And
Yes.
no, okay, I need to be empathetic here.
Yeah.
I can, again, just understand it. And that's cognitive empathy. Or I can move to that emotional empathy where I think, okay, what does it feel like when I'm fighting with Walter? What
Yeah.
does it feel like when someone in our family has lost a job or lost a pet or, been in a terrible accident or something? Those things kind of try to recall our own emotions from that similar event.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can help us even further identify and maybe pull on some more of those emotions. And then the third one, the book talks about is compassionate empathy.
Ooh.
I know. And so I honestly have never thought about it in stages or in terms of
Yeah.
really defining the empathy, but compassionate empathy would be then moving into take a meal to the
Ah,
person who is experiencing loss,
yeah.
perhaps buy a gas gift card for the person who is
Yeah.
now out looking for a job, or maybe some other memory keepsake for a pet that's passed, knowing how we have felt in our lives when we've lost something or when we've had that tension, what could we offer? And so to me, those were really practical and good ways of thinking about it because it gives me something to actually do.
Yes. A call to action at the end, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so good. Um, I, I know that sometimes I keep myself so busy. I have so many things on my plate that sometimes I really need to slow down and I skip to, if they were stages, the third one of, well, what can I do? How can I help do something? And that call to action. But I think I'm not taking enough time to think and be cognitive, what exactly is happening and think through, okay, well, maybe these are some emotions they could be feeling, move to the emotional, the intensity of the emotions and take time to consider how they might react to those emotions. And then to the call to action. Do you think that it's possible people could do those in different orders, or do you think maybe something different? I don't know.
I do. I think that's a great point that sometimes we go just to action without really feeling anything on our own within our own selves, just doing that out of a sense of duty, maybe,
Yeah.
or perhaps even in a sense to not go there. Like, I don't want to feel those things
Yes.
again. And so but I wonder, are we really being as good in that relationship as we could be
Yeah.
if we're not trying to help? I sit with you in your pain. I'm
Yes.
sitting beside you in your struggle. And I think sometimes I can imagine this happening in the classroom.
Mhm.
Sometimes in the classroom, a student will behave a certain way, and the teacher might say, okay, I get it, but it's still due, or we still hold them to those standards.
Right.
And then if we let ourselves go to that emotional empathy, we remember what it's like when we're 13 or 14, and
Yeah.
we think, of course you forgot this because
Right.
you're, 12. And then we start to think, okay, that compassionate piece on top of it, how can we now layer, I remember what that feels like, so we're going to hold to whatever this standard is, but also I'm going to be so kind about it
Mhm.
and think, what is that characteristic I can help teach you that brings you along, instead of it just being about the rule.
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of ways, even with our own kids in homes and even in relationships, we can be more compassionate and
Sure.
connect emotionally. So that has helped me think about empathy in a new way.
I really like that, because if we want to be able to make these steps to emotional intelligence applicable in situations that are not usually a feeling situation, they don't usually lend themselves to talking about feelings or whatnot. So my job with the government, often we fall back on policy. And we might have an officer who is unable to complete something in the, we would say, officer is unable to complete in the prescribed timeline. So if they're unable to complete, failure to complete within the prescribed timeline.
That sounds even more official.
Right. I mean, it's not super empathetic.
Right.
However, we can use the policy of being held to the policy. We still have a timeline, but maybe we use the other parts of empathy to state something like, there are ways to apply for an exception to policy. See subparagraph, blah, 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 point, blah. There's always so many sub paragraphs with the blahs and the points and the letters and the policies. It's hard to keep them all straight, but that might be how is to kind of curb the harshness, the sterility.
Yes, yeah. I like that.
Some of my favorite TikToks on empathy are from somebody who says, in case you didn't know, I'm an empath. I'm sensing you're very upset that I just stepped on your foot.
I've not seen those.
And so it's this whole string of videos where it's different people and they go, I'm an empath. I'm sensing you're very upset that I ate the last donut that you said to hold for you. Tell me about that.
That's funny because they probably write on every time.
Right. Because they're empaths, Margie. Because they're empaths. I'm an empath. I feel like you were upset when I wore your shirt in 7th grade and you didn't want me to. And then I just got it dirty and hung it right back up.
We are not airing out all that laundry.
Well, that was laundry I probably should have done.
So, that reminds me of our closet story. I have a closet story. So we used to, which has nothing to do with either of these commandments. But when we were little, we shared a room. And so we had one big closet. Well, I had clothes on one side and she had clothes on the other side. And then I would want mine to all be in the right order. This is telling a lot about me right now. But I would want to make sure that my hangers stayed my hangers also.
I do not remember this at all.
You don't?
No, keep talking.
I actually feel good about that then because I was afraid these were these neurotic things I was doing as a young kid who was really not very kind. It wasn't kind. I took the nail polish and put a little line on every one of my hangers so that if you took it,
I wouldn't use them.
So I would know if they were on the other side.
Well, good for you because listen, I was awful. I would take crap of yours all the time.
Why did that even matter to me?
Because I would take crap of yours all the time.
I just apologize. That was unnecessary.
I'm an empath and I can sense that you're kind of upset about that, Margie, and you're forgiven.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't recall that at all. It's all good.
Actually, this is cathartic for me. So for all our listeners, come back each time for another therapy session with the Hughes girls. That's our maiden name before you get us confused. Yes. Well, this has been a great episode today. I feel like the more we keep talking about how to do emotional intelligence well, how to apply it well, it really helps give me something to think about during the week and practical ways to move forward. So we're so glad you all come along with us as we talk through these things. If you have not already, please subscribe to our channel. Yes. We've been putting our little invites out on Facebook and Instagram, but we don't want you to miss a post.
Yeah.
So if we put up a little video or a short video in some way, we don't want you to miss that. So be sure you subscribe and share, tell your friends about us. We would love to extend our community to your communities.
Yeah. And did you know that you can book us to come and help with professional developments over the summer? So both of us have backgrounds in education and we will both be all but dissertation. Margie is already all but dissertation in her PhD and I will be in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And over the summer, as your groups are working on professional developments, you can invite us in, and we're happy to give some tips and tricks on emotional intelligence in the workplace and in conflict resolution. We're here for you.
Yep.
Okay. Sure. Well, until the next time, I'm Audrey.
And I'm Margie.
And we hope you live in harmony. Bye.